If you ask me for my focus, in addition to be participating as a Democrat with the Democratic camp in these top line issues regarding democracy, our concern about the national security law, the need for our own national security law to redefine what Beijing has said, of course, those are the issues that I will work with the Democratic camp. But specifically as a DC1 FC, the functional constituency for the district councils, my job will be to build that link between LegCo and the district councils and empower the districts to do a much better job. This time around, you could suggest that people that were willing to do the hard work of going to those few polling stations created some bias. But that's the way it is. I mean, people went out, 600,000, they voted, and I think it's an important number. That there is some bias, we'll all learn to get better. The turnout rate was so high because people are truly concerned about the future of Hong Kong, democracy, freedoms, and people are concerned about the extradition bill, the national security law. People are deeply concerned about, and that's why, despite all the difficulties of getting to the polling stations, so many people came out. Now, I don't think that necessarily everybody is an extreme activist. I think a good general section of the population came out. All different colors of yellow came out. When it comes to voting behavior in LegCo, for me, it is making sure that it's not bundled, make sure that it's not, the sequence is not put in such a way that we're forced to accept things that we don't want to accept. So I would see that we have to negotiate with government and say, don't bundle it, so we can support livelihood, welfare, healthcare, those issues we can support, when we will support. But if you bundle it, then we may have to vote against even good things for the community because you've bundled them in a bad way. And then it must be very clear from the community that we voted against it because it was bundled, or the sequence put against the interest of the community. So we've got to be very clear. So you can't say, I vote against everything. Well, I don't think the national security law affects me in my life, but as it is such a blanket law, it's nothing specific. I mean, originally it was announced, oh, it's a sharp knife aimed at only a few people. And it's not. It is a massive blanket law. I mean, I became Hong Konger in my own mind in around 2000. And then later on, I gave him my passport and became completely a Hong Konger, because if you're going to be involved in local politics, you cannot keep one foot outside. And we see too many politicians in Hong Kong on different colors that have a foot outside. I believe even our chief executive may have a foot outside. So I don't think you can speak up truly for Hong Kong unless you're totally embedded in Hong Kong. So the international shout out, I mean, in the sense that, you know, people call you up, the media contacts you, that is constantly happening. People say, Paul, what is going on? The consul generals in Hong Kong that we have conversations with because of the Hong Kong Democratic Foundation chairmanship that I have, there is a constant dialogue, meetings. We organize sometimes lunches, although with COVID we had to stop them. So there is an outreach there. My international shout out when it comes to international organizations is more like on the issue of urban planning. So like UN Habitat is an organization that I deal with regularly, but that's not on political. That's all about building better cities, resilience, climate change. It's those topics that I'm deeply connected with international organizations. Well, I think that these activities that I get involved in are not that above the water visible in the local media. When I get a phone call from European media, or you get invitations from the consul generals, or we hold a luncheon forum as the Hong Kong Democratic Foundation, or under the Professional Commons, we have these meetings. So I don't think that that's high visibility work, but I think it's important work. It's an important liaison work that you do. There are other people who are up front, right there at the front line, and everybody has a separate job. Everybody has another strength, and I think that people will recognize that. I think the one country, two system is going to be alive for a very long time because it benefits Beijing. So from a legal perspective, they love to keep Hong Kong as what I call it, a special purpose vehicle. That's a legal financial term where a company sets up a subsidiary to get special activities done. Well, Beijing looks at Hong Kong like that. I can do my transactions with the international community. I can use your rule of law because people trust your agreements. So there are many reasons that Beijing will want to keep the rule of law, want to keep the system. But when it comes to political freedoms and how we are organized politically, of course, we can see dramatic changes where the rule of law is under threat, where we're eroding the freedoms that we have. The very blanket national security law that has not been negotiated, that hasn't been discussed in LegCo, that is a raw law, that hasn't been fine-tuned by good discussion, that is not a good one for Hong Kong. And that is ultimately damaging that special purpose vehicle. Okay, I'm not going to make the promise ever again about learning Cantonese. It is a tough language. What I appreciate is that the community supports me irrespective of my language abilities, that the community knows how much I love Hong Kong, that I care for the city, what I've done for the city. Would it have been better? Yes, of course it would be better. I think that what happens is you have to work harder. And what counts are your values and your understanding of the city and all of that. If you understand all of those and you can reach and touch people, then that is what really counts. Will it make it easier when you speak the language as well? Of course it does. And if it doesn't, somebody like me, I have to take full responsibility at all times. I think that people respect me for that, and they will not give up on me just because of that thing. Not being able to speak their language well. I'm not going to make a promise that I cannot deliver again, so I'm not going to make that promise to you. It's time for him to lay down and be the dead body. Well, I wish Elvin a long life, and I'm sure that it was a metaphor for doing whatever he could to kind of make sure that Hong Kong's legal system is defended. I'm sure that he did not mean that he was going to commit suicide or put himself in the front line and get shot in the head. I'm sure that it all meant metaphorically that he will continue to do his damnness to defend Hong Kong and the freedoms of Hong Kong. Ronnie has surprised and disappointed me. When I originally joined Civic Party, one of the first members that I had a conversation with before I was allowed to join was Ronnie Tong. And so he was a core member of the Civic Party. Then when he left Civic Party and started the Path for Democracy, the whole idea was to talk about one country, two systems. Unfortunately, then two things happened. First, Ronnie decided that his group was going to be a political party and he was going to run for seats. Well, I immediately left that one because I was not of the same mind as everybody. But for me, it was about the discussion, not about being a party. And now he is completely switched side. You know, when he kind of took the job in EXCO. So, you know, I believe he believes that he's doing a good job for Hong Kong in his way. I think that he lost the respect of the community and that he made mistakes by doing this. I will do my damnedest best to continue to to work for the community, to work for the district councils, try to achieve as much as possible. I just continue to do what I've promised to the district councillors, which is to use the work that we already do at Designing Hong Kong, the work that I do since 2002, which is creating a better city, to work closer with all the districts to actually try to achieve that. And I will continue to do that irrespective of elections or no elections.